Well, hey there, my friend. Welcome back for another episode of Drummer Daily. I'm so glad you could join me. I am back in my happy place. I'm sitting behind the drum kit as I'm recording this up in my home studio, which it's been a while since I've recorded an episode from this vantage point. And so I am so happy to be back here. Let's see what's going on. I've got myself a nice can of Kroger brand Dr. Pepper flavored fizzy water. So, because when you get to be older, or start getting older like I am, you start having to enjoy close approximations of the things you used to enjoy but aren't so good for you anymore. So this is one of them. I used to love to drink Dr. Pepper all the time, and now I'm enjoying. These things are great though. They're not sweetened. That's the only thing. So it's just like fizzy water that kind of tastes like Dr. Pepper, but it's great. So if you ever drink this, by the way, pro tip for you, keep it in the can. Don't pour it into a glass or anything, because it's clear and it kind of ruins that illusion that you're drinking, a soda that maybe you shouldn't have. So I'm keeping it in a can so I don't remind myself that it's not the real thing. But hey, yeah, I've had a great day today. Me and the family spent a little time at the swimming pool here in our community, and it's getting to that point where I'm kind of a wimp when it comes to getting in the pool, and so it's got to be pretty darn hot outside before I'm really ready to jump in and just go for it. But it's definitely getting that hot now. So I've got my tank top on still from the swimming pool and everything like that. But while I was at the swimming pool today, I actually thought of something that I wanted to share with you that relates back to drumming. And so I did get in the pool. I kind of was like, the first time I got in, I think I was like waist deep. And I'm not one of those people who really likes to just jump in. I always like to kind of walk slowly in. I know it's probably more torture that way because you feel cold all the way up to your neck, as you walk into the pool. But what's funny is when I finally did decide to kind of get my shoulders in the water, get all the way in the water. It was only really freezing cold for a second, and then it's like, wow, this is really refreshing. And I remember saying to my wife today, I was like, man, I didn't realize, you don't realize sometimes how hot you are outside until you fix it, until you are able to not be so hot. And then you're like, man, I was really hot because this is really refreshing. And that's something that came up with, again, that kind of the analog of that came up in one of my drumming intensives this week. I was talking to a drummer, and we talked about the idea of a lot of times you don't necessarily realize you have a certain habit or a certain way of doing things on the drums until someone on the outside who's really paying attention says, hey, can you not do that thing, or can you do something different? And then it's only when you attempt to change that thing that you realize, man, that's really hard for me to not do that. Or to put it another way, man, I really needed some improvement in some area of my drumming, and I didn't realize it until I was asked not to do it, or I was confronted with it by an outside source. And that got me thinking. See, I just followed these rabbit trails in my own mind. But that got me thinking. I was like, well, let's say I do identify something, maybe that I'd like to improve in my drumming. How would I go about doing it? And there's lots of great things you can do on your own to improve your playing, but I know that many of us, myself included, because you never stop learning, even though I kind of position myself as an educator, I don't stop learning from other people as well. Many of us go to an outside source. We say, hey, I want to go learn from this person or that person, whether it's online or it's in real life or whatever. I want to learn and develop my drumming more. And an epidemic that I've noticed recently in the drumming community as a whole, is that oftentimes drummers will go and start trying to learn from someone who is just a great drummer. And there's nothing wrong nothing wrong with wanting to learn from a great drummer. But if that's all they are, if they just are a great player and you're trying your best to learn and develop as quickly as possible, with that being your only basis for learning, it's going to be kind of an uphill battle. And the analogy I would use is it's kind of like, let's say I I have the flu and I'm sick and I obviously don't want to have the flu anymore. Well, I wouldn't just go to a person, any old person who doesn't have the flu. That's not going to be the best source for me getting better and healing my sickness. I don't just go find any old person who doesn't have it and say, hey, how do I not have the flu? Can you fix it for me? Because they're not going to be equipped to actually improve and change my situation. They might be a good example of what I'd like to be once I don't have the flu, because they might be a healthy person, but they're not going to be equipped to actually help me make that change. And in the same way, if you want to especially improve your drumming in a certain way, you shouldn't have your only means of getting better or improving be just another great drummer. You should go find someone who is attempting and even has a track record or is good at or has some systems in place to educate and help develop drummers. Now, of course, this is a little selfish because I do some of those things, but if you've explored any of what I offer, I don't speak to everything that you might want to do as a drummer, and so I'm certainly not the only source or even the best source for a lot of things you might want to do on drumming. But there are some specific things that I focus on. But maybe if you want to focus on something different than what I talk about, you need to go find someone who is attempting to educate in those areas. Don't just go find someone who's great at those things and just do what they do and expect to get efficient improvement in results from your play time, your practice time, your developmental time. And I want to be clear that following along in the footsteps of other drummers or attempting to emulate really great drummers should definitely be part of your development as a drummer, but it shouldn't be the only thing. If you really want to improve, if that's your number one goal is improvement and development of your playing, there's tons of great websites out there that help you develop your playing. So invest in some of those. Invest in a teacher, invest in getting lessons or coaching or whatever it is. But if you're sick or your drumming is sick, don't just find any old healthy person and say, make me like you. You got to find someone who is equipped and has the ability to help you improve in the ways that you want to improve. So that's it for today's episode. I just want to encourage you, find a teacher, not just a great drummer to learn from, or find both, because that's totally fine and that's a wonderful thing to do. But thanks for joining me today on the podcast, and we will talk again really soon. Bye for now.